Let's talk about Joey Fatone. Not the Joey Fatone you're picturing right now, the one doing the worm on stage in front of 50,000 screaming fans, the one with the big voice and the bigger personality, the one who was quite literally 1/5 of the most successful boy band on the planet at the turn of the millennium. No, let's talk about the Joey Fatone who was standing in his own house on Christmas Day, surrounded by his family, aunts, cousins, kids, everybody, when the lights just went out. Not because of a storm, not because of a blown fuse, because he hadn't paid the electricity bill. That's where we're starting today, because that image, that specific moment tells you everything you need to know about what fame can do to a person, and more importantly, what the music industry does to the people it chews up and spits out when it's done with them. Joey Fatone is 49 years old now, and he's finally talking. He's the executive producer of a new investigation discovery docuseries called Boy Band Confidential. And in it, and in a series of recent interviews, he has opened up about a chapter of his life that most people had absolutely no idea about.
There was never really conversation about NSYNC ending.
Even right now, people are always asking, is the group getting together?
Sure.
Is anything gonna happen? Do I see anything in the near future? No, I don't.
JC just said that there was a Zoom call. Was it with everybody, Justin included?
All of us were there, just talking to each other. Hey, do we see anything or anything like that? It's like
the financial freefall, the bad advice, the mansion he had to sell at a massive loss, the moment he had to move his wife and kids into his parents' house, the friends who turned their backs, all of it. And honestly, this story deserves way more attention than it's getting. So let's rewind. The late 1990s and early 2000s. NSYNC is not just a boy band, they are a phenomenon. These 5 guys from Orlando are selling out arenas worldwide, moving tens of millions of albums, and generating the kind of revenue that makes accountants' eyes light up. Their 2000 album, No Strings Attached, broke first-week sales records at the time. These were not small numbers. This was not a niche market. This was mainstream American pop culture at its absolute peak. Joey Fatone, riding that wave, bought a sprawling 10,000 square foot mansion in Orlando in August 2001, when he and his bandmates were at the height of their fame, paying $2.65 million for it. And it wasn't just big. Among the amenities were a mini golf course, a wet bar, a lagoon-style pool, and a movie theater. In other words, this was not a guy who bought a modest place and saved the rest. This was a guy who lived like a star because he was one, and because everyone around him told him that was completely fine. Here's the thing though. When Fatone asked his accountant at the time whether he was okay to buy the house, the accountant told him his kids would be fine. That's not financial advice, that's cheerleading. And it's exactly the kind of reckless encouragement that was apparently pretty standard when it came to how boy band money was being managed, or more accurately, mismanaged. Fatone himself has admitted he wasn't paying attention to what was going on. He described being 20 years old, buying a couch, wanting each sofa cushion to be different, a choice that cost somewhere between $5,000 and $7,000, and genuinely not thinking twice about it. And that detail matters because it's so relatable and so human. It's not the story of someone blowing millions on private jets and diamond chains. It's the story of someone who just spent. A vacation here, a renovation there. Furniture that was a little too nice, habits that felt completely sustainable when the money was flowing, and felt catastrophic the moment it stopped. But there's a layer to this story that goes even deeper than bad accountants. Because NSYNC's financial issues didn't start in 2002. Back in 1999, the group had already filed a lawsuit against their manager, Lou Pearlman, accusing him of financial misrepresentation and exploitative contracts that left the group earning far less than expected. Think about that. These guys were selling out the world, and the contracts they were locked into meant the money wasn't flowing the way it should have been. Pearlman's $300 million Ponzi scheme through his transcontinental companies was eventually uncovered in 2006, and he was convicted of fraud in 2008. He died in prison in 2016. So from the very beginning, the financial foundation underneath NSYNC was cracked. Then came 2002, and this part still stinks to hear about because of how it happened. Fatone says there was never a real conversation about the band going on hiatus. There was no goodbye. There was no warning. It just stopped. The tour stopped, the album stopped, the revenue stopped. And for Joey Fatone, life as he knew it stopped with it. Now here's where it gets complicated. Because when you've been famous for years, when money has always been there, when you've been told repeatedly that everything is fine, you don't immediately think to audit your finances the second the paychecks slow down. Fatone says he had no idea his finances were depleting. He trusted his accountant. He assumed someone was watching the numbers and would say something if there was a problem. That's not naivete. That's what you do when you hire someone specifically to manage that part of your life. But as Fatone described it, he started watching the numbers deplete quicker and quicker than normal, and eventually realized his accountant might not have been fully looking out for his best interests. His manager, Joe Movahim, who was previously NSYNC's assistant, put it plainly. People around Joey were telling him to spend it, that he had it, that he was earning it, and Joey got bad guidance. That's the sentence right there. Bad guidance. Those two words represent the quiet catastrophe that has ruined the finances of more musicians, athletes, and entertainers than most people realize. You get young, you get famous, you get rich fast, and suddenly you're surrounded by people who are either incompetent, self-serving, or both. And because nobody sat you down at 22 and walked you through what a diversified investment portfolio looks like, you have no frame of reference to know when the advice you're getting is bad. By 2011, nearly a decade after the hiatus, a new accountant sat Fatone down and told him he needed to get out of that house immediately or he was going to go bankrupt. And Fatone's reaction, as he described it in his own words, was essentially, "I'm sorry, what?" He had genuinely not seen it coming. The money had been bleeding out for years, slowly, steadily, and the people who were supposed to be watching it weren't watching it closely enough or weren't being honest about what they saw. Having initially listed the mansion for $5.9 million in July 2009, Fatone was forced to steadily drop the asking price to a low of $3.9 million in February 2011, before ultimately auctioning the home off for just $3.3 million. He had bought it for $2.65 million, poured money into upgrades and customizations, and sold it for barely more than he paid, after years of carrying costs on a property that was eating him alive.
And in the middle of all that, Christmas. The electricity getting cut off. It happened in the afternoon, while the family was cooking Christmas Eve dinner. Cousins, aunts, his wife, his two kids, everyone was there. And the power just went out because he hadn't paid the bill. Fatone has described it as horrible. He said the good news was the water was still on, but that kind of dark humor only works in retrospect. In the moment, that's a man who built something enormous, watching it fall apart in real time, in front of the people he loves the most, on the one day of the year when you most want everything to feel okay. After that, Fatone, his then wife, and their children moved in with his parents. A man who had once owned a 10,000 square foot estate with a movie theater and a mini golf course, moving his family into his parents' home. What happened next says a lot about who Joey Fatone actually is. He swallowed his pride and reached out to friends for help. Not for money, but for guidance and navigation. And what he found was that some people showed up and some people didn't. Close friends turned their backs. The people who had been around when everything was great suddenly weren't available when things were hard. That's a lesson that cuts deep and stays with you. But he didn't spiral. He didn't go off the deep end. He asked himself a direct question. Do you go to addiction to numb yourself, or do you get a positive attitude and push forward? And he chose to push forward. He kept performing. He did Broadway. He hosted shows. He kept building. And critically, he never actually filed for bankruptcy. He came back close, looked it in the face, and found another way through. Now, why does this matter? Why are we talking about a story from over a decade ago that's only now being fully told? Because Joey Fatone is not an isolated case. He's a pattern. The music industry, especially the machine that manufactured and monetized boy bands in the 90s, was specifically designed to extract maximum value from young performers who had no financial education, no real leverage in their contracts, and no one in their corner who wasn't also profiting from them. Lou Pearlman ran a $300 million Ponzi scheme while presenting himself as the man who gave these kids their dreams. The artists who trusted him paid for it in ways that are still rippling through their lives today. And Fatone's story shows what happens on the other end of that machine. You get a kid from Brooklyn, give him the world, surround him with people who tell him to spend it, watch the tap turn off overnight with no warning, and then act surprised when the numbers don't add up years later. As Fatone himself put it, certain people are born and raised to invest money and learn how to deal with it. He was not. And that's not an excuse. That's a systemic failure. When you're 18 or 19 years old and suddenly making more money than your entire family has ever seen combined, and nobody, not your management, not your label, not the people who are getting rich off your talent, sits you down and teaches you what to do with it, that's not just bad luck. That's negligence.
You might been hurt, babe. That ain't no lie.
The fact that Fatone is now producing a docuseries that explores exactly this dark side of boy band fame.
You have one true highlight of being a member of NSYNC.
There's a lot of surreal moments. Being up there with the Jackson 5 and Michael Jackson when we did Dancing Machine. And it was really cool because they were like,
I have complicated feelings about NSYNC.
why are you complicated? Just tell me.
I got in fights with my first girlfriend because of how obsessed she was with you guys.
Wow, got that deep.
At the height of the rivalry, like how deep was the rivalry between you and the Backstreet Boys?
Well, in even in the doc, I think it touches it a little bit as well, where it does say,
Means he's trying to make sure other people don't walk the same road he did. His manager, Mulvey, he said he now has younger clients he's extremely protective of because of everything he learned through Joey's experience. That's the way you turn a bad chapter into something useful. And that's also what makes Boy Band Confidential worth watching beyond the nostalgia factor. The series explores how the industry transformed young performers into marketable commodities, while exposing untold stories of abuse, addiction, and financial manipulation. It's not just Joey's story. The docuseries features interviews with Lance Bass, AJ McLean of the Backstreet Boys, Wanya Morris and Sean Stockman of Boyz II Men, among others. And Fatone has said it was therapeutic for many of them to speak out. These artists trusted Fatone specifically because he was one of them. He wasn't a journalist or an outsider with an agenda. He was a peer who had lived it, lost it, and rebuilt. That kind of credibility is hard to manufacture. Fatone's manager, Mulvihill, has also noted that they're already looking at expanding the concept, exploring rock bands and girl groups, because the same through line of exploitation, financial mismanagement, and emotional damage appears across every genre. It's not a boy band problem, it's an industry problem. And the fact that we're only now getting these stories in a format where the artists themselves have creative control says everything about how long the gatekeepers of the music business have been able to control the narrative. Here's the bottom line. Joey Fatone stood on a stage at the MTV Video Music Awards. He sang in front of hundreds of thousands of people. He had a mansion with a mini golf course. He was, by every external measure, living the dream. And then Christmas came, and the lights went out. Not because he was reckless or careless as a person, but because he was young, he was trusting, he was surrounded by the wrong people, and he was part of a system that was never designed to protect him in the first place. He got out without filing for bankruptcy. He rebuilt. He found his real friends. He kept performing. And now, at 49, he's telling the truth about it on camera, which takes more courage than most people realize. The lights came back on. They just took a while. And look, if this story hit different for you, if you found yourself nodding along at any point during this, there's a reason for that. Because the lesson here isn't just about Joey Fatone. It's about what happens when talent meets a system that profits off that talent without ever protecting it. That's not a 90s problem. That's happening right now, in every corner of the entertainment world, and in a lot of ways, in everyday life too. Young people coming into money they were never taught how to manage. Advisors who are more interested in keeping the good times rolling than telling you the hard truth. Friends who are around for the highs and invisible for the lows. So here's what I want you to do. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button because this channel is exactly for these kinds of stories. The ones behind the headlines, the ones the industry didn't want told. We cover them with the detail and respect they deserve. If you've been here a while, drop a comment below. Tell me, did you know about Joey's story before today? Were you a fan back in the NSYNC era? I genuinely want to know. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who just came into money, someone chasing their big break,
Someone who thinks fame automatically equals security? Share this video with them. It might be the most useful thing they watch this week. We'll see you in the next one.